What's up, Maidenslavians? It is I, your master, Maidenslave, and not really. Yeah. I'm just that guy on YouTube that thinks he knows what he's talking about. Yeah. Anyways, we're going to talk about British Steel by Judas Priest. And, or as properly pronounced, British Steel. We say it very highbrow music. We say it like that because, what kind of accent is it? What the fuck am I doing? Alright, yeah, okay, well, let's just first of all talk about the artwork on this album. Now, when I think about, back to the original Mystery Drink. Okay, I'm getting off, alright. Right, come on, let's fucking talk about Judas Priest and... Yeah, okay, alright. So, the artwork, man, iconic artwork on this album. I mean, when you think about metal and you kind of see some of the pictures of artwork in your mind, Number of the Beast, Holy Diver, British Steel, the Black Album, even though I don't like it, Master of Puppets, fucking Motorhead's first album. Oh man, Highway to Hell, AC/DC. This is it's just one of the most iconic art covers within the genre, and it really is a brilliant piece of artwork. It's so subtle, it's so simple yet so strong. Obviously, I mean, we all fucking know it's the amazing hand with the Judas Priest logo and the British Steel. Get it? It's a razor, steel, all that good shit. It's great. It was a great idea. It was a great title. I mean, if Judas Priest were to have a self-titled album, it probably would be this one, if not Hellbent for Leather. Just, yeah, fucking awesome piece of artwork. Always has been one of my favorites. Still is. Always will be, and all that good stuff. Second thing to talk about is... they changed up drummers again, Dave Holland. And this guy really is legitimately their 80s drummer. He was with them all the way until the end of the 80s. He was on every single album in the 1980s, all the concerts, everything. He was the man, the drummer, the dude that played the drums. And, yeah, he wasn't that bad. I mean, he wasn't, there was really... between him and Les Binks, not that big of a difference, you know, especially when he first came in. He had a big sound, sounded great, all this good stuff. Which brings me to the sound of the album. Right, it is definitely one of the best sounding albums that I have heard. I mean, it rivals, once again, here we go again, the Black Album. It sounds so huge. The guitar sound is fucking huge. The drums are huge. It all sounds so good to this day. It really does. Another thing to mention is it came out in 1980, which is pretty much the beginning of the new wave of British heavy metal. All these young cats coming out of the nowhere. Motorhead, even though they weren't that young, I mean, they were around forever. But, you know, Iron Maiden, all those great shit, all these bit younger acts with more energy and more shit came to the scene, and they kind of beat out the punkers, you know, the punk rockers and all that shit. And pretty much what this did was, instead of kind of scaring Judas Priest away and making them feel old and kind of like, you know, yesterday's news and all this shit, it actually recharged their batteries. Actually, I saw an interview with Rob Halford, and he said that the new wave definitely changed the model of Judas Priest. It definitely recharged them. It gave them a different sound, a more aggressive tone, a bigger sound. On Hellbent for Leather, they were, you know, it sounded, like I said before, it sounded very kind of late 70s, very laid back. And they definitely picked up some energy on these next few albums for sure. I mean, they were a reborn band, pretty much. They would do this again in 1990, but, you know, yeah, we'll get there. So let's just fucking talk about this motherfucker already, right? First song, Rapid Fire. Great song. I mean, way, way high energetic, very fast for Judas Priest. Amazing, just amazingness going on there. No, Rapid Fire really is a great song. Really, really great lyrics. I really like the chorus. Amazing guitar solos in there. very upbeat for Judas Priest, and it goes into very nicely Metal Gods. And the reason why I say it goes into very nicely is because, to be honest with you, I'm not the biggest fan of this song. I know this is one of their biggest, most popular songs. They play it in all their fucking concerts. Everybody wants to hear it. It's a bit of a self-titled song because now they are the Metal Gods, and all this good shit, but wasn't ever really a big fan of it. It was a little bit too slow-paced for me. It didn't really have much going on, but honestly, within the framework of this album, it really shined a lot, and I actually enjoyed it, especially after Rapid Fire. The slower-paced vibe was working for me, and I really liked the sound. And that goes very nicely into Breaking the Law, which, you know, if you guys don't know, and you're a Judas Priest fan, fuck, I do not know what to tell you, because, wow, the Breaking the Law is an amazing song. I mean, the number one thing that comes to my mind when I think about Breaking the Law is the infamous riff. Very melodic for Judas Priest. They definitely started to take a turn at this point and go down a much more melodic path, similar to like an Iron Maiden, a lot of the new wave of British heavy metal bands, very melodic. One of the coolest, catchiest, and most simple riffs to come out of metal, period, and definitely an amazing song, one of their best, for sure. Now we kind of get to the not as amazing part of the album. Very similar to Hellbent for Leather, British Steel has some all-time classics on it, for sure. Judas Priest, metal, period, classic songs, has some stuff. But, kind of because of that, it seems to carry a lot of not-so-good songs. Kind of goes into a blur there in the middle of the album. And it starts with a song called Grinder, and to me this was just way too kind of straightforward and way too basic. It just, and repetitive. You know, you can't get away with this if you're going to come out with Rapid Fire, Metal Gods, Breaking the Law. You can't do that. If you're going to have an album that kind of sounds generic and kind of just basic and repetitive, you can get away with that. But if you're going to have really, really good songs, it's going to make these other songs not look so good. You know, Grinder, it's kind of like grinding through the album at this point. Now, sure, the sound is good enough to kind of keep you interested, at least for the first couple times that you listen to this album, but eventually the kind of the novelty of the sound of this album and the vibe of this album will eventually wear off, and these songs will kind of just fizzle out into nothing. Grinder, just very repetitive, very weak. Yeah. United is another one. This is a bit more slower paced, a bit heavier, but the riff is just not that great, really, and it's just way too repetitive for me. You Don't Have to Be Old to Be Wise is a very long song title, first of all, maybe a little bit too long. And the song actually makes me feel old. Actually, it sounds very generic. It sounds like a stereotypical heavy metal song to come out of the 80s. Now, you can give me the argument of they kind of maybe helped pioneer this sound because this is 1980 and it sounds very 1980s-ish, but that doesn't make the song any stronger, really. I mean, yeah, that's, you know, a pretty nice thing to say, but the song itself is, yeah, it's not that strong. Living After Midnight, however, is a very strong song. This is one of the gems on the album, and this is one of the classic Judas Priest songs, really. I mean, it's an amazing song. It kind of took that. It's a better example of them pioneering the sound of the 80s, because it's actually, it's a good song itself. And it definitely sounds like it definitely inspired a lot of 80s rock to come out of, you know, fucking the LA scene, the Hollywood scene, all that shit. However, it's Judas Priest, it's fucking heavy, it's melodic, it's awesome. One of my favorite songs, for sure. Next song is The Rage. And this was definitely the most different sounding song on the album. That doesn't mean that it's bad. I mean, the bass intro is very, very, very catchy as fuck. And I kind of don't know why this wasn't a much more popular song on the radio, because it definitely has that kind of catchiness vibe coming out of it. The song itself doesn't do much. Very slow-paced. Doesn't really have any, you know, kind of impressive musical bits about it, except for the the catchiness of that bass intro and kind of when the guitars come in, and obviously the sound's great. But other than that, though, it's, you know, one of the weaker songs on the album, unfortunately. And the album ends with a song called Stealer. Now, once again, this is another Judas Priest album that does not have a song called British Steel, but very similar to Sin After Sin, it has a song called Stealer, and very similar to Sinner on Sin After Sin. Follow along, please. Stealer is an amazing song. They definitely ended the album on a very high note. A much more upbeat song, a much stronger song, a much heavier song, a much more impressive song musically. And it actually worked because it tricked me. When this album opened up, I was like, fuck yeah, you know, British Steel, here we go. Middle of the album, I was like, ooh, this is kind of a weak album. And then when it got to Stealer, I was like, wow, that was an amazing album. So it actually fucking tricked me. So I actually had to listen to it a few times, really, to get a real taste of where this album stands relative to the rest of their discography, and kind of just relative to music, I guess you can say, in general. So I will actually say that British Steel is probably one of the most important albums to come out of Judas Priest's discography, their career, because I think that the message that it sent was much stronger than the actual music on it as an album. Not only did it show everybody that Judas Priest could actually hang with all these new upbeat and younger bands from the new wave, but they actually eventually helped the new wave of British heavy metal, and nowadays they're actually considered peers with bands like Iron Maiden. They're put in the same pot, which is amazing, which is, you know, it just marks a very, very big part of Judas Priest evolution, kind of getting back to what I was talking about on the Rock-a-Rolla album. This is definitely a turning point for Judas Priest, and definitely a turning point for metal in general. I would definitely, you know, advise somebody, this would definitely be in the top few albums that I would advise somebody to listen to if they were just getting into Judas Priest. It's a very easy album to chew, it's not very long. However, there is nothing there that kind of wows you, really, compared to their previous albums. So I'm going to give British Steel by Judas Priest a 7 out of 10. Later, guys.